Hello, good afternoon. Welcome to Communities Live here on Sheffield Live 93.2 FM. And we have film director Adam Kiss. Good afternoon, or should I say good morning over there?
Yes, absolutely. I know I'm in the United States and you're over in the UK, so we have a bit of a time difference, but so glad that we made it work and really great to be here.
So thank you for joining me today. And I've got to say, congratulations on the film. It's a great film to watch. We'll talk a little bit more about it later on in the show. But I want to get a bit of background about you, Adam. So tell us a bit about yourself.
Absolutely. So my life story is that I was always interested in performing. My parents were both concert pianists, actually. I was always in a musical, in an artistic house. So kind of from an early age, I was always a shy kid, but I was always interested in performing. So I started out acting, singing. That's what I was trained in. I eventually went to college for those things. And it was really, I was doing a whole bunch of things. I was doing musicals, I was doing opera, I was acting in plays, things like that. And then it was really during the pandemic, all of a sudden, live performances stopped happening. So I really, all of a sudden, didn't know what to do with myself, but I wanted to do something. I couldn't just sit around and do nothing.
Sure.
So I just decided to make these short films. So I really just made three short films. I mean, interestingly enough, a few of them were Shakespeare themed. I did a one-man version of Hamlet as a short film, which actually got some awards from some UK film festivals as well as some international film festivals. So I was encouraged by that. I got into screenwriting, wrote a bunch of feature film screenplays, and then I just decided not to wait for permission for somebody and decided to produce my own feature film. And so that was it. I produced it, directed it, wrote it, and starred in it.
And also, your wife has also produced a film as well, is that right?
Oh no, my mom actually.
Oh, your mum. Oh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. So, Christine Kiss also produced a film as well. And sorry, I thought she was your wife. I do apologize about that.
No, no. Yeah, Christina Kiss is my mom, and she's also a concert pianist. So the funny thing is that I also got her to do the soundtrack for the film. And I also actually in the film, for anyone who's seen the film, she actually plays my mom in the film, my character's mom.
So, and I mean, we've seen the film, and it's a great film, and we'll talk a bit more about that later on. So, I wanted to ask about your influences, Adam. I mean, so tell us a bit about who influenced you as a director, and also if there was anybody that you could work with in the near future, who new or old, who would it be and why?
Absolutely. So I think that you'll be very happy to know that my some of my favorite filmmakers are actually British filmmakers, which I mean, old or new. I think that the British film industry is absolutely incredible. The film and TV industry. I mean, even today, to the modern day, I think that especially in the TV industry, the level is absolutely so high. With British series
Sure.
is and all of that. I mean, I definitely watch those. I would say more than American series. But so in terms of, I think that my absolute favorite director of all time is David Lean, the famous British filmmaker. I mean, he did Lawrence of Arabia is obviously one of my favorite movies.
Wow.
Dr. Zhivago. I mean, I just love the great epic scope of his things. And then on the other hand, he did great movies like Brief Encounter, which is like a very small movie, but a very emotional movie. So he kind of did it all. I like how he balanced even in his great epic movies, there's a lot of really intimate moments, and in certain ways, you have these wide establishing shots, but then you also have these great, intimate scenes. So I'm definitely a fan of him. I'm definitely a fan on the European side of Ingmar Bergman. He was definitely, the Swedish film director, definitely a big influence for me. On the American side, Orson Welles, definitely. I mean, especially because he was an actor, producer, director, and writer as well.
Yeah.
I mean, I think he did Citizen Kane when he was like 26. So, pretty close to where I am now. So, I mean, it's yeah, he's always been a big inspiration for me. And yeah, I mean, in terms of people I'd love to work with, obviously I would have loved to work with any of them. Unfortunately, the time has passed and they're all dead.
Yeah.
Um, but it would have been it would be incredible to just have a conversation with those people. Also, one of my favorite actors is actually Richard Burton, who is also a British actor. So, again, I'm definitely a big fan of the British film and TV industry.
And I mean, you mentioned a load of legends there, and their legacy still lives on today's, and it still influences a lot of directors, as you say today as well. And I've got to ask, Adam, what was the first film? We've just talked about influencers and who you work with, but what was the first film that you actually saw that captured your imagination and thought, gosh, I really want to become a film director or an actor? What was that film?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's very fascinating because I was never one of those kids growing up who always dreamed of being a director or who like got the camera at a young age and started filming everything. That's the story of most directors, at least that you hear, that they from an early age they started filming and doing their own little movies at like 5 years old. That was actually I never wanted to be a film director. I never necessarily wanted to be a writer to start with. It was really through the acting and through that way that I got into it. And it was almost through necessity of just wanting to do act in more projects, do some of my own projects that I became a director. And it was after that that I absolutely fell in love with it. And now it's hard not to direct something, if you know what I mean.
Sure.
Once you've been a director, it's hard to suddenly go back to just being an actor. Obviously, I do that too. But so having said that, I definitely, in the last few years, I've been thinking a lot about it now that I'm thinking more from a cinematic point of view. And, in the past, I had always been focused when I watched movies on the actors' performances. And it's really only the last few years that I suddenly realized, oh, wait, this director, I have to watch this other movie by David Lean that's maybe not as well known, or by Orson Welles, or anything like that. So, as a kid, though, I was really inspired by those big spectacle movies like,
Mm.
Ben-Hur, uh, Cleopatra, all those kind of great films, Quo Vadis. I loved like all those Roman epics, all those ancient, huge spectacle movies, which, we get them sometimes these days, but I wish we would get those more.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, Adam. There's definitely needs to be some more epics out there. Because we get a lot of films out there now, and I don't want to be a killjoy or anything, because everybody loves every typical action adventure film as much as the next person. But yeah, I think you need to find. There's got to be. You got to have something different as well, like something unexpected. And and we're going to talk a little bit about your film now, which is called My Last Words. And congratulations, by the way, on it being your debut feature film.
Thanks.
So it is premiering on the December tomorrow, actually, December 10th, at the Big
Yeah.
Film Festival in New York. So, but will there be a UK release in the near future?
Well, absolutely. I hope so. Definitely, we've submitted it to a bunch of more film festivals, so we'll see what happens in the UK as well. And then obviously, the goal is once it's completed the festival run to get it on streaming, or absolutely, I would love to, if it doesn't otherwise have a UK premiere, hey, I'd love to hop over there and do a UK premiere because why not? It would give
Why
me an
not?
excuse to go over there. Perhaps I can try talking in my best British accent. And I'm just kidding. But absolutely, I would love to have a UK premiere in addition to obviously having it on streaming.
And well, I'm going to talk a bit about the plot. I won't give too much away, but I watched the film and it's a great film. It's a romantic drama film, but I've got to say, there's some psychological elements to it as well. But I don't want to give too much away. But from what I've got here, it's like a bit of a plot is there's a novelist that is suffering from a life-threatening illness, and is going by his journey about with how long he's got left. And I don't want to give too much away because obviously I don't want to spoil the film for anybody that wants to watch it. But I've got to ask. How difficult was it to think of an idea for the plot for the last words? Did it take a long time to figure it out, or was it? Did it come? Did it piece together quite quickly? Actually.
So I wrote the original draft of the script in 3 days. Believe it or not, I think it was literally over Christmas 2 years ago that I wrote it. I think I started it on Christmas actually.
Oh yeah.
It's one of those things. Suddenly I had this idea. You don't. Where do ideas come from? Sometimes you don't know. Sometimes you think there's certain scripts where they've been kicking around your head for a few months and then suddenly you write it. But this one just suddenly came to me. I was suddenly inspired by it. So I wrote the original draft in about 3 days. And then obviously, I immediately knew that I something drew me to that I wanted to make this film next. So I immediately kind of got started on trying to get it made as my first feature film. And over the process of the next few months, as I was casting it, as I was, assembling the crew and everything, the script kept changing and everything. So it wasn't really 3 days. Like it was obviously more like 3, 4 months, because after that I kept refining it, and probably from the original script, maybe 30%, 40% survived. And the rest was all revised or new. As happens, I mean, obviously you have to keep polishing things,
Yeah,
depending, on how you see things. It's an evolving thing, and as they say, a script is never finished. I mean, I always say that you write a script 3 times. You write it when you write the script, you write it again when you film it, and then you write it when you edit it the third time.
yeah,
But yeah, I mean, I know what you're saying. It's kind of an interesting, like more complicated at times film. It's hard to categorize. Like you mentioned, there's definitely some psychological elements. And the thing that I like is that since you've seen the film, I'm sure you'll agree, is that different people can take a different message from it, or it can mean
yeah,
something different to them. Like I don't believe in forcing a message, at people, or dotting every I and crossing every T. I kind of believe in leaving a little something to the audience so everything's not completely spelled out for them. And I think that
yeah.
that's better, because that kind of the audience can participate that way in the story, and everything, it can have different meanings at different times for different people.
I mean, it's there is some shocking moments in it, and I mean, like I say, I'm not going to spoil too much into it because I don't want to give too many surprises away. And with it being, and it's also a 2 hour feature film as well. So, and I mean, how long did it take to actually film the film together? Did it take? Was it quite quickly, or did it take quite a while to film?
What would you guess?
Quite a while to film, should I say?
So I would I can tell you exactly. So including one pickup day, it was only 15 days.
Right.
We did 14 days, and then we did one extra pickup day for some extra shots, if you can believe it, which is pretty quick for a feature film. I mean, that's just about as quick as it gets, which, I mean, since you've seen the film, I don't think that it shows. I mean, most people who've seen it, think it looks like a multi-million dollar film,
Yeah.
or something like that, which, on a typical big studio film, I mean, filming for 90 days or something isn't unusual.
Yeah.
Obviously, some more independent films film for like 20, 30 days, and that's a short time. But I decided to go, we just made it happen. And that's the thing, you kind of have to have an iron will, just to,
Yeah.
to make it happen. And there's always going to be problems that arise. You just have to keep going through those.
I mean, I'm absolutely gobsmacked, Adam. I mean, you say you shot it in within 15 days. I mean, like I said, most big budget films nowadays take about half a year, nearly a year to film. And like you say, about £300 million. And I mean, well, some not saying all films are like £300 million, but for an independent film and you made it in 2 hours, I mean, that's an achievement in itself.
Yeah, yeah, no, I mean, I totally agree. And like you mentioned, most of those big studio films are 300 million, and then plus the marketing is also equal to that. So it's another
Yeah.
300 million, like 600 million when all is said and done. And I can guarantee you that that was not what we spent on this film. But having said that, I've been told by everyone that it looks really great. It looks almost like it was for a few million.
Yeah, you know what? It actually does. I mean, it does look like it was shot as a professional. Uh, oh, it is a professional film, but what I mean is
Yeah,
it's like it's definitely an independent film, but
yeah,
it definitely felt like it was made by a big budget director. And
yeah.
I mean, it's such a it's astonishing. It's a really really great film, and I recommend seeing it. Everybody who is listed, it is called My Last Word, which is released on 10th tomorrow at the Big Apple Film Festival. Hopefully, coming to the UK sooner. And will there be a digital platform or DVD that it will eventually release to when the film comes out?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't know the specifics yet, but absolutely, it will be on streaming, and I'm sure it'll be on physical media as well.
Right, we'll keep watch this space, ladies and gentlemen. So, and I've got to ask Adam. I mean, what made you? There's so many different genres of film out there. I mean, you've got like historical dramas, like love, romance, action, adventure, horror. I mean, Out of all the genres out there, what made you decide to go for like a romantic drama?
I don't know. I guess I see everything as a love story. I mean, I guess, especially in like classic older movies, there's generally like a love stories at the heart of most movies. And maybe it's just because I'm a romantic person. I'm kind of a romantic soul. But also, I mean, it's just it's also, there's definitely some darker elements, as you know. So
So,
it's not a tragedy, but it's not a comedy either. So,
yeah,
I kind of believe, like in real life, there's sad things, there's happy things. That's kind of just the way life works.
yes,
So, I mean, and if you've seen also the film, which you have, you can tell kind of that classic film influence. Like it looks kind of like an older movie.
yeah,
The pacing is kind of like an older movie. The shots, the lighting, it's kind of gives a very classic vibe. And one thing that was important to me was like echoing that love story, which again I don't want to give too much away in the film, but
yeah,
I wanted those kind of extremely vibrant colors that you used to see, as opposed to most modern movies where I find that. Which it can absolutely work, there's nothing against it, but a lot of them have more of like a grayer or a darker color scheme. And that can absolutely work depending on the story, but I just feel that sometimes it's great to kind of go back to those vibrant Technicolor,
yeah.
style images.
And I mean, so I've got to ask. I mean, we've got your first feature film. So, what's next for Adam Kiss? I mean, what is the next feature film that you would love to make? If you could tell us about it, or if it's all
No,
secretive, you don't have to.
no, absolutely, I would love to. So it's funny that you mentioned that because I literally just started planning my next feature film. So that's probably going to be filmed actually this spring. So I'm just currently, not yet, I would say not quite yet in pre-production, but almost, definitely already starting to think of casting and assembling a crew. So that's really exciting. This is actually going to be a very, very, very different film. From this one, which I like, and especially a lot of great directors of the past, like a lot of directors today, you think that they always have a certain style. They always kind of deal with a similar subject matter, at least it seems to me. But what I liked about, classic film directors a lot of the times is that they did a whole bunch of different styles, like Michael Curtiz, who's actually also a Hungarian immigrant. He did a lot of movies, like he did Casablanca, but then he also did like an Elvis Presley movie, like King Creole, like a musical.
Wow.
So a lot of like directors used to do like Howard Hawks as well. He did like screwball comedies, he did westerns, he did a lot of things like that. So my next film is actually going to be a neo-noir mystery thriller. So whereas my
Interesting.
first one I would say is a little more artsy romantic drama, this one is a little more gritty, thriller, action. So I'm definitely excited for that. It's kind of it kind of is a throwback to, although it's set in the modern day, it's kind of a throwback to films like, The Big Sleep or Chinatown or things like that. So I'm excited about that.
Interesting, very interesting. Well, watch this space, ladies and gentlemen. And I mean, for anybody that wants to and break into this kind of industry, like make a film and hopefully make it successful, like you did, Adam, what advice would you give to our listeners?
Absolutely. I mean, if you want to do it, you just have to do it, I guess, as the saying goes. I mean, I definitely don't believe in waiting for permission for some big studio to come to me, and say, Adam, will you please make this $300 million film for us? Please, we are absolutely begging you. Now, obviously, right after we get off this interview, I'm sure that the big studio is going to come to me and ask me that exact question after they've seen this film. But until then, I just believe in absolutely making your own content and making it work. I mean, I think we're kind of in a golden age. We're going to enter another golden age of independent film, I think. It was kind of the first probably golden age of independent film was in the 70s,
Mm,
60s, 70s when the studio system started collapsing. And kind of, I feel like we're in a time like that again, where less and less studio films are being made.
yeah.
They're taking less and less chances, and they're really only I mean, they're not taking chances. They're really only dealing with like established franchises, like
Yes.
the eighth sequel to this franchise, or the 22nd of this film, or it has to be some kind of a spin-off of some established IP. And definitely, that's not how it used to be. That's not something that I'm so interested in. Is just doing like the 10th sequel of something. I definitely believe in doing original things and original stories, and I think that it's well known these days that kind of the middle budget films have kind of gone away. Like things are either costing the 300 million
Yeah.
or they're done for just a few million or under. but kind of a lot of those great movies that were aimed towards, the regular audiences, they're kind of just gone nowadays.
It,
You
yeah.
don't see those kind of middle budget movies anymore.
And it is. I mean, that's the shame of, unfortunately, with films nowadays. It's like you say, they're more focused more on IPs and big names more than creating independent films like yourselves. And it's a shame because there's so many independent films that I watch, and the great films out there, and they just need a chance, unfortunately. But saying that, I mean, with IPs, I mean, IPs also started as film start like Alien. I mean, that's grown into a multi-million-dollar franchise, and that started off as a low budget film, and nobody took a chance on it to do a sequel until about nearly 10 years later, which is it's amazing, isn't it? But I mean, like you say, I mean, hopefully in the near future this will change, and that more independent films will get more of a chance, like big budget films do. But Adam Kiss, I've got to say thank you so much for joining me today. It's been an absolute pleasure. I'd like to give the final word to you. What would you like to say to our listeners who is currently listening right now?
Well, I'd like to say that again, I would absolutely love to come to the UK, do a screening of it. Obviously, it depends. I would love to go to several places in the UK. Obviously, it's never too much, and it would give me a wonderful excuse to go there. So, absolutely, let me know if you would like to see that.
Adam Kiss, it's been a pleasure, and please come to Sheffield.
Absolutely, I'm on my way right now. I'll get the next plane over.